She recognized his face before she recognized that he was dying. Judge Raymond Holt, 61 years old, the man who had looked her father in the eye 12 years ago and said, 25 years, no possibility of early parole, like it was a weather forecast. Like it was nothing. He was slumped against the bottom step of the Fulton County Courthouse at 6:47 on a Tuesday evening, his robe still on, one hand pressed to his chest, his breathing coming in short, wet pulls that Destiny Carter could hear from 15 feet away. She stopped walking. Every single part of her said, keep moving. She kept walking, past the fountain, past the bronze doors, almost to the parking structure. Then she stopped again. Somebody help him, she shouted. Nobody was there. The plaza was empty. Just her, just him, and the sound of his breathing getting worse. Destiny pulled out her phone and called 911 before she fully understood she had turned around. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand something about Destiny Carter. She was 19 years old. She worked the 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift at a bakery 12 blocks from the courthouse, and she came to this building every Tuesday after her shift. Not for herself, for her father. Marcus Carter had been a high school history teacher in Atlanta. 41 years old. Clean record. He coached the debate team on Wednesdays and drove his daughter to her SAT prep class every Saturday morning. On a Thursday in November 12 years ago, $340,000 disappeared from the Fulton County School District's Capital Improvement Fund. By Friday morning, Marcus Carter was in handcuffs. The prosecution said he had diverted the money through a vendor account he controlled. They had his signature on 14 authorization forms. They had an IP log showing approvals from his school laptop. They had a motive. Marcus had been passed over for a principal promotion 3 months earlier. What they did not have was Marcus Carter doing anything wrong. What they had, though nobody knew it yet, was a perfect frame built by a man who needed someone to take the fall fast before auditors started asking questions that would lead in a completely different direction. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Judge Raymond Holt sentenced Marcus Carter to 25 years. Destiny was 7 years old. She watched from the gallery in a dress her grandmother had ironed that morning, not fully understanding, and then fully understanding, and then spending the next 12 years visiting her father in prison every Tuesday, without a single exception. Today she had brought him a photograph. His sister's new baby, a girl they had named Simone. He had cried when he saw it, and Destiny had kept her hand pressed flat against the scratched plexiglass while he cried, because it was the only way she had ever figured out how to hold him. She was thinking about that photograph when she heard the breathing. Sir. She dropped to her knees on the cold stone step. Sir, can you hear me? His eyes were open, but not tracking. His lips had a gray tinge she didn't like. 911, what is your emergency? There's a man outside the Fulton County Courthouse on the main steps. He's conscious, but barely. His breathing sounds wrong, and his lips are going gray. Stay on the line. Is he responsive? Sir. Destiny touched his shoulder. My name is Destiny. I'm right here. Can you squeeze my hand? His fingers moved. Barely. He responded. He moved his hand. Good. Help is 4 minutes away. Keep him talking. She looked down at Judge Raymond Holt, the man who had stolen her father's life with a sentence. The man she had spent 12 years hating in the specific, intimate way you hate someone whose face you know better than most of your relatives. You're going to be okay, she said. Stay with me. His eyes found her face. Something moved in them. Not recognition. Not yet. Don't close your eyes, she said. What's your name? Can you tell me? His mouth moved. Ray. A whisper. Barely. Okay, Ray. I am Destiny. I'm not going anywhere. What she did not say was, I know exactly who you are. What she did not say was, 12 years ago you took my father away from me in this building. What she did not say, even to herself, was, a part of me walked past you on purpose and had to fight itself to come back. She stayed on her knees on the cold courthouse steps, one hand on his shoulder, until the ambulance came. She should have left when the paramedics arrived. She almost did. Are you family? One of them asked, snapping gloves on. No, I just found him. You can go then. We've got him. She stood up. Her knees ached from the stone. She had flour on her jacket from the bakery, and she was tired, and she had a bus to catch at 7:15. Then one of the paramedics said, Sir, Did you take anything today? Any medication? And Judge Holt said, very quietly, water. You drank water? Tasted wrong. The paramedic looked at his partner. Something passed between them. Destiny stopped walking. He said the water tasted wrong? She asked. Ma'am, you can go. We'll take it from here. He said it tasted wrong, she repeated. Does that matter? The paramedic's face gave her the answer before he did. We'll run labs at the hospital. She rode in the back of the ambulance. Nobody asked her to. Nobody told her she could. She simply climbed in and sat down, and the paramedic looked at her for a half second and decided the argument wasn't worth it. Grady Memorial Hospital's emergency waiting room smelled like floor wax and vending machine coffee. Destiny sat in a plastic chair with her jacket still on and called her grandmother. I'm going to be late, she said. Where are you? Hospital. Destiny. Her grandmother's voice dropped. What happened? I'm Fine. I found somebody. I'm just waiting. She didn't say who. She wasn't ready to say who. She sat there for 47 minutes before anyone came to talk to her. It wasn't a doctor. It was a woman in a gray blazer with a county ID badge and the specific kind of face that has learned not to show anything. You rode in with Judge Holt. I found him outside. Can I ask how you know him? Destiny looked at her. I don't know him. I just found him on the steps. The woman wrote something down. Were you at the courthouse today? I visit my father there every Tuesday. He's incarcerated. More writing. Did you see anyone else near Judge Holt before you found him? There was nobody else there. The plaza was empty. You're sure? Yes. The woman handed her a card. Detective Sandra Bennett. Fulton County PD. We're treating Judge Holt's condition as suspicious, Bennett said. The labs found something in his system. I'm going to need your full name and a formal statement. Destiny stared at the card. What do they find? Enough to open an investigation. Bennett's eyes were reading her carefully. Miss Carter. Destiny Carter. Something flickered in Bennett's expression. Gone before Destiny could name it. Carter, Bennett repeated. Can you stay a little longer? Can I ask how he is? Stable. Bennett paused. Barely. Destiny sat back down. She had missed her bus. She was going to miss the next one, too. She looked at her phone, 3 missed calls from her grandmother, and thought about her father sitting in a cell 12 blocks from here, holding a photograph of a baby girl he had never met. She stayed. It was 2 hours before Bennett came back. He's asking for you, she said. He doesn't know me. He knows you found him. He's lucid now, and he's asking about the girl who called 911. Bennett held the door open. 2 minutes. Judge Raymond Holt looked smaller than he did in a courtroom. That was the first thing Destiny noticed. Without the bench, without the robe that was now folded on a chair, he was just a pale, tired man with an .4 in his arm and a hospital blanket pulled to his chest. He looked at her for a long moment. You stayed, he said. I gave a statement to the detective. That's not why you stayed. She didn't answer. What's your name? He asked. Destiny Carter. His face changed. Not dramatically. A small shift around the eyes, like a word had landed somewhere tender. Carter, he said quietly. You remember my father? Yes. 25 years, she said. No possibility of early parole. He looked at her for a long time. The monitor beside his bed beeped softly. Outside the room, someone laughed at the nurse's station, a short, ordinary sound completely wrong for the moment. I need to tell you something, Judge Holt said. I need to hear why the water tasted wrong first. He closed his eyes. Because somebody put something in it. Who? That's a longer answer. He opened his eyes again. And it involves your father. Destiny sat down in the chair beside his bed. Her bus was long gone. Her grandmother was going to be awake all night. She sat down anyway. Tell me, she said. 3 months ago, Judge Raymond Holt had started receiving files. Not through official channels. Not from an attorney or a prosecutor or the public defender's office. Through his personal email from an anonymous sender in the middle of the night. 14 files. One for each authorization form that Marcus Carter had supposedly signed. They were forgeries, Holt said. Not subtle ones. Obvious ones, once he knew what to look at. The signature pressure was wrong. The pen angle was wrong. A forensic document examiner could have spotted it in 20 minutes. Then why didn't they? Because nobody asked for a forensic examination. The prosecution didn't need one. They had an IP log. They had a motive. They had a public defender handling 40 other cases who couldn't dig into document forensics on a 2-week timeline. He paused. And they had me. What does that mean? It means I should have looked harder. His voice was steady, but something behind it wasn't. I had the authorization to order additional discovery. I didn't use it. The case felt clean. The evidence felt solid. He looked at the ceiling. Your father looked guilty because someone had spent a significant amount of time making sure he would. Destiny's hands were very still in her lap. Who sent you the files? She said. I don't know. The email address traces to a temporary account. But whoever was knew where to look. The real vendor account, the one the money actually went into, didn't belong to your father. It belonged to a shell company. And that shell company led to another one. And that one led to who? Holt turned his head and looked at her directly. District Attorney Robert Crane, he said. The room went quiet except for the monitor. Robert Crane, Destiny repeated. The DA who prosecuted my father. Yes, he framed my father. He diverted $340,000 from the district's capital fund into a shell company he controlled, and when the auditor's office started getting close, he needed someone to take the fall. First, your father had access, had recently signed legitimate vendor paperwork, and had a surface motive. He was the easiest answer. Holt's voice was flat, not apologetic, but exhausted in a way that was almost worse. I've spent 3 months building a case to take to the state's Judicial Review Board. I had a meeting scheduled for Thursday. Today is Tuesday, Destiny said. Yes. And today, somebody put something in your water. Yes. Destiny stood up. She walked to the window. Outside, Atlanta's lights were starting to come on against the dark, ordinary, and indifferent, and lit up like nothing at all had just changed. Does Crane know what you found? She asked. I believe so. I met with my clerk last week to begin organizing the documentation. She called me yesterday, told me she'd received a call from Crane's office asking what I'd been working on. He paused. She thought it was routine. I didn't. And this morning you drank water from your office. From a thermos I keep in chambers. His voice was very quiet. I've had that thermos for 11 years. I've never had a reason to question it. Who has access to your chambers? My clerk, the assistant DA who handled scheduling last month. Maintenance staff. He stopped. And the DA himself. He came by last Thursday on what he said was a courtesy visit. Destiny turned from the window. You need to tell Detective Bennett all of this. I know. Right now. Tonight. I know. He looked at her. I wanted to tell you first. Because you have more reason than anyone to have walked away from me tonight. And you didn't. She looked back at him for a long moment. This man who had sentenced her father without looking hard enough. This man who is now, maybe the only person alive who could undo it. I didn't do it for you, she said. I did it because my father raised me to be a person who doesn't walk past someone dying on steps. Holt nodded. He didn't flinch from it. That's a better reason, he said. Detective Bennett was in the hallway. She listened without interrupting while Holt laid out everything. Destiny sat in the corner and said nothing. She was very good at saying nothing when she needed to. When Holt finished, Bennett was quiet for a moment. Then she asked one question. Where's the documentation right now? In my chambers. In a locked drawer. Bennett's phone was already out. I'm going to need 2 things from you, Your Honor. First, the key to that drawer. Second, I need you to not contact your clerk, your office, or anyone at the DA's office until I tell you it's safe. Agreed. Bennett looked at Destiny. You. Don't go home tonight. Excuse me. If Crane's office is watching Holt's movements and they know he was hospitalized tonight, they're going to want to know what he said and who he said it to. You rode in the ambulance. Your name is in the EMT's report. That means your name is available to anyone willing to look for it. Destiny felt the floor shift slightly. You think I'm in danger? I think you found a man someone was trying to kill, and now you know why. I think being careful costs nothing. Bennett met her eyes. Is there somewhere you can stay tonight that isn't your home address? My grandmother's. Whose name is it registered under? My great-uncle's. He died 4 years ago. We never changed the lease. Good. Go there. Don't use your phone to search anything related to Crane or Holt tonight. Don't post anything. Don't call anyone except family. Bennett paused. Can you do that? Destiny thought about her grandmother, who was probably awake and terrified. She thought about her father in a cell 12 blocks from here, holding a photograph of a baby girl named Simone. She thought about a man she had almost walked past on courthouse steps. Yes, she said. She almost made it through the night without anything happening. Almost. Her grandmother was awake when Destiny got to the house at 11 p.m., sitting at the kitchen table with the light on and a cup of tea gone cold. Tell me, her grandmother said. So Destiny sat down and told her everything. Her grandmother listened without interrupting, the same way she had listened to bad news for 71 years, with her hands folded on the table and her face absolutely still. When Destiny finished, her grandmother said, "Your father's going to come home. We don't know that yet." "I know it." She reached across the table and put both hands over Destiny's. "I've known it was a matter of time since the week they took him. Innocent men have a way of not staying buried. It just takes longer than it should." Destiny sat with that for a while. At 2:17 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She ignored it. At 2:19 a.m., it rang again. She answered. "Miss Carter." A man's voice. Calm, controlled. "My name isn't important right now. What's important is that you understand what you're about to get pulled into." Destiny's spine went cold. Who is this? Someone who has been watching Robert Crane for a long time. Much longer than Judge Holt has. A pause. "The files Holt received 3 months ago. I sent them." She sat up straight. "Why are you calling me?" "Because Crane knows you were at the hospital tonight. His office has a contact in the EMT dispatch system. Your name was flagged 3 hours ago." "How do you know that?" "Because I have my own contacts." "Miss Carter, listen carefully. Crane is going to move the money tonight. The shell company accounts. He's going to dissolve them and move the funds to accounts so layered that no forensic audit will ever trace them back to him. By morning, the only evidence tying him to your father's frame will be the original authorization forms, and those can be explained away without the account trail behind them. The documentation in Holt's chambers points to the shell company. Without the current account records showing Crane's fingerprints, it's circumstantial." He paused. "But I have the current account records. I've had them for 6 months. I've been waiting for someone with the authority to act on them." "Then call Bennett. Call the detective." "I can't. If I surface, I become a witness. And I have reasons I can't explain tonight for why I cannot be a witness in a case involving Robert Crane's office." His voice was steady but tight at the edges. "But you can call her, and you can tell her that the account records exist and where she can get them." "Why would she believe me?" "Because I'm going to email them to you in the next 4 minutes. And because she's a good detective who will recognize what she's looking at." Destiny's heart was hammering. "Who are you?" A silence. "Someone who also lost something 12 years ago because of Robert Crane," the man said, "and who has been waiting 12 years for the right moment." The call ended. For minutes later, an email arrived from an account that would, Bennett would later confirm, be traced to a temporary server that dissolved itself within the hour. Attached were 47 pages of wire transfer records, account registrations, and transaction logs. At the top of the first page, someone had written a single handwritten note, photographed and scanned. "These are real. Check the routing numbers. Crane moves them tonight." Destiny stared at her phone. Her grandmother was asleep 3 rooms away. The house was completely quiet. She called Bennett. What happened in the next 4 hours, Destiny only knew in pieces, reconstructed later from what Bennett told her and what appeared in court documents she read obsessively over the following weeks. Bennett verified the routing numbers against federal banking records within 20 minutes. They were real. She woke up a federal contact at 3 a.m. and filed an emergency request to freeze the accounts before Crane could move them. The request was granted at 3:44 a.m., 11 minutes before a wire transfer instruction originating from Crane's personal laptop was submitted and rejected by the frozen accounts. By 4 a.m., there was a warrant. By 5:30 a.m., Robert Crane was in custody. Destiny found out at 6:15 a.m. when Bennett knocked on her great-uncle's front door. "It's done," Bennett said. She looked exhausted, like someone who had driven through the night on coffee and adrenaline. "The accounts are frozen. Crane is in custody. We found the substance used on Judge Holt, It was in a small bottle in Crane's car. It's a cardiac suppressant. In the amount he used, it wouldn't have killed Holt immediately, but alone on courthouse steps with no one around. She didn't finish the sentence. Is Holt okay? Destiny asked. He'll recover. Bennett paused, and he's already called the State Judicial Review Board. He's filing a formal motion to reopen your father's case this morning, before Crane's attorneys can build a narrative around any of this. She looked at Destiny directly. Your father's documentation review is going to happen, probably within a week. Destiny sat down on the front steps of her great-uncle's house. The sun was just coming up, orange and flat across the city's rooftops. She didn't cry. She had learned, somewhere around age 12, not to cry about things until they were real. Who was the man who called me? She asked. Bennett sat down beside her. We think we know. There was a junior accountant at the school district 12 years ago. He flagged some irregularities in the vendor accounts a week before Marcus Carter was arrested. His complaint was filed and then quietly buried by Crane's office. He was laid off the following month. He's been living in Savannah. She paused. We're going to need to talk to him. Will he talk? He already sent you the records. I think he's been ready to talk for 12 years. Bennett looked at her sideways. You know, most people who found a judge they had every reason to hate dying on courthouse steps would have kept walking. My father would have stopped, Destiny said. That's the only reason I did. Marcus Carter's case review took 9 days. 9 days during which Destiny went to the bakery every morning at 5 a.m. and came home at 2 p.m. and sat with her grandmother at the kitchen table doing nothing useful. 9 days during which Judge Holt, recovering in his home, submitted a 41-page judicial review motion that named Crane, named the shell company, named the forged authorization forms, and named every step of a frame that had consumed 12 years of Marcus Carter's life. 9 days during which Robert Crane sat in a federal holding facility while his attorneys filed 11 different motions, all of which were denied. The accountant from Savannah, whose name was Theodore Mills, gave a full statement to federal investigators on day 3. He had flagged the irregularities in the vendor accounts in November 12 years ago. He had been told by Crane's office that the matter was under internal review. 1 week later, Marcus Carter was arrested. Theodore Mills had lived with that knowledge for 12 years, moving carefully, building a private record of everything he had seen, waiting for a moment when someone with real authority was both able and willing to act on it. He had sent the files to Holt 3 months ago, he told investigators, after learning through a legal news alert that Holt was the presiding judge scheduled to review a judicial conduct motion related to the original case. He had watched for a month to see if Holt would act. When Holt started pulling original case files, Mills recognized the movement and knew it was time. He had called Destiny because her name was in the EMT report and because, he told investigators quietly, he had followed Marcus Carter's case long enough to know his daughter's name. I wanted someone who had a stake in it to know what was happening, he said, in case something went wrong. On day 9, Destiny was mopping the bakery floor at 1:45 p.m. when her grandmother called. Turn on the news, her grandmother said. I'm at work. Destiny. She went to the small TV mounted above the register and turned it on. The cheer at the bottom of the screen read, Fulton County wrongful conviction. Charges dismissed. Marcus Carter ordered released. She stood with the mop still in her hand and watched the screen and did not breathe for several seconds. Then she called her grandmother back. Tell me that's real, she said. Baby, her grandmother said, and her voice broke open in a way Destiny had not heard it break open since the day Marcus was arrested. Go get your father. The release processing took 4 hours. Destiny spent all 4 of them in a waiting room at the detention facility, still in her bakery uniform, sitting in the same plastic chair posture she had perfected over 12 years of prison visits. Except this time, she was not waiting to see him behind plexiglass. This time she was waiting for a door. At 6:22 p.m., the door opened. Marcus Carter walked through it in his own clothes, a white shirt and dark slacks that his sister had dropped off that morning, slightly too large because 12 years had taken weight off him that no one had asked about. He was 53 years old, and he walked slowly, the way people walk when they are not yet sure the ground is going to keep holding. Then he saw her. Destiny stood up. She crossed the room in 4 steps and walked straight into him, and he caught her the way fathers catch daughters, with both arms, completely, without any hesitation at all. She cried then. Finally. Properly. He held her and said nothing, because there was nothing to say yet. There will be time for everything else. Right now, there was just the door and the ground still holding and his daughter in his arms, after 12 years of plexiglass and Tuesday visits and flour on her jacket from the bakery. She'd worked since she was 16 to help her grandmother pay the rent. Okay, he said finally, quietly, into her hair. Okay, baby, I'm here. I know, she said. I know. Robert Crane was indicted on 31 counts across federal and state jurisdictions. Evidence tampering, guide froth, procurement of poisoning, attempted murder. The trial, when it came, lasted 6 weeks and ended with a conviction on 28 of the 31 counts. He was sentenced to 32 years. He was 64 years old. He would not walk out. Theodore Mills testified on day 3 of the trial, calm and precise, 12 years of careful record-keeping laid out in 4 hours on the witness stand. He had never lost the original vendor account documents he'd flagged. He had never thrown away a single note. His attorney, a quiet woman who had once told him, "Your only job is to survive long enough for this to matter," sat in the front row of the gallery and watched him testify without blinking. Judge Raymond Holt testified on day 11. He walked into the courtroom without his robes, in a plain gray suit, and sat in the witness chair with the composure of a man who had decided that the only thing left to do with the worst mistake of his career was to account for it completely and publicly, without softening a single edge of it. He did not look at Marcus Carter while he testified. He looked at the jury. On the last day of the trial, when the verdict was read, Marcus Carter sat in the gallery between his sister and his mother, 3 rows behind the prosecutor who had spent 6 weeks taking apart the man who had destroyed his life. Destiny sat beside him with her hand in his. When the foreperson read guilty on count 1, Marcus closed his eyes. He kept them closed through count 28. When the verdict was finished, he opened them and looked at Destiny. "It's over," she said. "It's over," he agreed. He did not say it with triumph. He said it the way a man says something he has been waiting to say for so long that when the moment finally arrives, it comes out quietly, almost gently, like a door closing on a room he never wanted to be in. Destiny met with Judge Holt one time after the trial. Not at the courthouse. At a coffee shop 3 blocks from the bakery on a Wednesday afternoon when she had the day off. He was already there when she arrived, sitting with a cup of coffee he hadn't touched, wearing a plain jacket and no tie. "Thank you for coming," he said. "You asked," she said. "So I came." They sat for a moment. The coffee shop was busy, loud in the comfortable way of ordinary afternoon places, indifferent to everything. "I want to say something," Holt said, "and I don't want you to feel obligated to respond to it or accept it or do anything with it at all." "Okay. I failed your father," he said. "Not because I was corrupt, but because I was careless, because the case felt clean and I didn't push past the feeling. A man's life is not a feeling. It is not something you trust to instinct without verification." He picked up his coffee, then set it down without drinking. "I will spend the remainder of my career on the Judicial Review Board specifically because of what happened to your father. Not as penance. Penance is for people who want to feel better. I want to make sure it doesn't happen to someone else." Destiny looked at him. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," he said immediately. "I told you I don't want you to respond. I just wanted to say it to your face." She nodded slowly. "Can I say something back?" she asked. "Of course. My father doesn't hate you," she said. "I thought about whether that was strange, and I decided it isn't. He told me last week that he thinks what you're doing now matters more than what you did wrong before. I'm not sure I completely agree with him yet, but I'm working on it." Holt looked at her for a moment. "You're more like him than you probably know." "I know," she said. "He keeps telling me." She drank her coffee. He drank his. Outside, Atlanta went on being Atlanta, loud and bright, and carrying its history inside it the way cities do, without always showing which parts have shifted. Destiny went to her father's house for dinner that Sunday. Her grandmother was there. Her aunt, the baby, Simone, who turned out to be very small and very loud and absolutely unimpressed by the legal proceedings that had preceded her introduction to the family. Marcus held her for the entire evening. He sat in the chair by the window, the one with the view of the oak tree in the backyard that his mother had planted 30 years ago, and he held his niece and didn't say much. After dinner, when Simone was asleep and the dishes were done and the house had settled into the quiet of family that has been through something enormous and come out the other side still intact, Destiny sat on the back porch with her father. "You know what I kept thinking about in there?" Marcus said. "Tell me. All those Tuesdays you came." He looked at the oak tree. "Every single one. I used to count them. I knew you were coming before you called. I always knew." He paused. "I used to wonder if it was too much. If it cost you too much." "It didn't," she said. "Destiny." "It didn't," she said again. "It kept me going the same way it kept you going. We kept each other going, Dad. That's how it works." He was quiet for a while. "You saved the man who sentenced me," he said finally. Not an accusation, just a fact he was still turning over. "Yeah, that's a hard thing to do." "It was instinct," she said. "I didn't think about it until after." "That's not instinct," he said. "Instinct is running from danger. What you did is something you taught yourself. Something somebody taught you." She didn't answer, but she reached over and took his hand, the same way she had pressed her hand against the plexiglass every Tuesday for 12 years. He held it. The oak tree moved slightly in the evening wind. Somewhere inside, the baby made a small sound and then went quiet. They sat there until it got dark, and then a little longer after that, because neither of them was in any hurry to go inside when the air was like this and the night was like this, and the person sitting beside them was finally, actually, simply there. There's a kind of courage that doesn't feel like courage when you're inside it. It feels like fear and cold pavement and every reason in the world to keep walking. And then you don't. And 12 years later, your father is sitting beside you in the dark, and he is alive, and he is home, and that is the whole story. That is every bit of it.